Hey, it's Jason with JLN Photography, and we are back. Real photography talk for real photographers. How do you like that tagline? I've been actually kind of thinking about it. I do kind of like it. I don't know if it's being used anywhere, but I probably ought to check this out. But yeah, real photography talk for real photographers. So why do I think it's that? For this whole year, I feel like let's go back to even before that. Looking for podcasts as a photographer, I had looked and never really found podcasts that were interesting to me, and they always had certain aspects of it that maybe I liked but not fully liked, and maybe that's what my podcast is also. It's not necessarily for everybody, but what I do try to get is I try to get to the real of photography, the real insight to it. I don't, there's some photography podcasts that I listen to or that I had listened to that are definitely more technically centered or equipment driven, right? They talk all equipment, they talk all technical aspects of photography. I have never been one to be super technical with that kind of stuff. I can definitely talk some of that technicality, but I feel like and maybe it's because my family glazes over when I do it, or my friends do, but they don't. They just lose sight of it. And so I don't feel like that's actually where I want to go with it. And I feel like there's a lot of photographers, maybe newer photographers, that kind of gloss over too when you talk that technology side of it, or the spec heavy aspect of it. But the other thing too is, again, I'm not a technical person, and there are plenty of other technical people out there. And so I figure I will let you find them. I don't necessarily know who they are, otherwise I would point you in those directions, but that is not me. That is not who I will ever be. I'm never going to come at you with all of the technical mumbo jumbo of photography, whether it's business, whether it's lenses, whether it's cameras, lights, any of that stuff. I'm not going to do that, because not necessarily that it's boring, but there's people that are better at it than me when it comes to that side of things. Yes, there's people better at the side that I talk also, but something that I don't feel like I ever found was somebody just willing to talk the truth about photography. There's a couple that are like, hey, you talk about it, how awesome this is and how awesome this is. And, if you can, you've got these, this course, this photographer course. And, if you just do these photography steps, these 10 different steps, they're going to put you. And I don't think that's real. I don't think that's true. Yes, you can follow these steps, but there's still going to be something missing. And there's still probably a common denominator that photographers like that don't actually mention. When this is your business, right? And you're trying to make money. And so that to me is where, of course, those things are. They are geared to get people to buy their product, which again, that's what we all want, right? But they're geared to get people to buy their product, which makes that photographer money. I think there's a lot of people who want to be photographers, but not just stuck in photography. We could probably talk across the board with this, but I think there's a lot of people that want to continue to purchase this how-to, or attend this workshop, or do this thing, or get this piece of software to make them better. And so they buy that, and they buy that, and they buy this. But it still doesn't touch the common denominator for that person's photography. And I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that person that is like, hey, if you just do these 10 things, you're going to excel, because that's not the case. That's just not true. And so, I truly believe that everything that I've done for all these episodes, and now we're on episode 26, by the way, Or is it 27? It's either 26 or it's 27. It doesn't matter. But all of these episodes up till now have basically been things that I've gone through to get me to where I am today. And I am not at the top. I am not at the bottom. Maybe somewhere in the middle. There are plenty of other photographers out there that are way better than me. And there's plenty of other photographers that are not better than me. I am not trying to compare myself with anybody. I don't want to do that. I think it's always good to have goals in mind and people in sight to where you would like to strive to be without comparing yourself to them. But I've mentioned it a couple times. The common denominator. And again, with a lot of these, and I'm going to call them get rich quick. They're not get rich quick schemes. They're get better quick schemes. And you even see them freaking on like social media now. I haven't seen one lately, but it was like learn Photoshop in these 10 easy steps. And of course people buy that. And that's also almost where I put like presets, because there are things to buy to make you better without actually making you better. You're not learning anything if you're slapping stuff on there. Tutorials. I love tutorials on YouTube. There's a photographer, or not a photographer, but a designer that I really liked when I was trying to figure things out as far as my retouching goes in my photography. I had to step away from the mic and I lost kind of track where I was. But I think there's a lot of these get better quick things out there that don't actually get you better. Oh, YouTube. What was his name? Pix Imperfect. Pix Imperfect is fantastic. And if you need any kind of retouching tools or stuff like that, Photoshop work, this dude on YouTube is amazing. Now, here's the caveat though. If you can follow a step-by-step tutorial on how to do things, you can definitely do what he's doing. But if you don't understand the concept, you're going to have to continue to go back and do this step by step. And so that's really where this stuff is for me. If you've got a photographer that you're listening to on like a podcast or something, and they're, hey, just buy this program. And I'm not telling you not to do this. These programs are probably tried and true. They're good. They will work. But if you don't understand the concepts, then you're going to kind of lose a little bit, and you're not going to get everything out of it that you probably need to get. So again, I'm not saying don't get into that stuff, but there are plenty of people out there that just continue to get that stuff and they don't improve the common denominator. And the common denominator is you, or the photographer. So without changing that common denominator, you can have these or you can buy these things, but they're not necessarily going to make you better. You have to understand these things. And I think that's where I'm really trying to come from my perspective of this photography podcast. I don't ever want it to come off that I know more than anybody. I don't. I know that. I am very well aware that I learned most of what I do on YouTube. That's probably also one reason why I will never get super technical. That's one reason why I won't talk specs, because, I learned it a specific way. I didn't learn it the way that maybe professionals learn it or stuff like that. I learned it through YouTube, through practice, through trial and error, and messing up so many times and not understanding what I was doing to the point where quitting, and then coming back. So, but I think that there's a lot of photographers like that. I think that's the majority of photographers, because the tools have gotten, I'm not going to say easy, but so much more user friendly to learn. Mirrorless has made shooting simple. It really has. Like, being able to, maybe not understanding it, but being able to adjust your settings on your camera right away with mirrorless to be able to kind of, what you see is what you get. You could not do that 10 years ago or 15 years ago with a DSLR. And so that learning curve has greatly been reduced. where am I going with this? The long way to say basically that I try to talk to the photographer, talk to the person, as opposed to talking to or talking about a photography on some platform, some monument, some mountaintop. That's not who I'm trying to reach. And if you are already at that point, then maybe this podcast probably is not for you, because I'm talking about things that you've probably already gone through and done. But I also think that I try to be more real, letting, not that others aren't, but again, real to me, telling you about my struggles, telling you about things that I did not know, things that I didn't do right, things that I messed up. And that's the reality of photography, the reality of being a sole business person. When it comes to photography, there are so many photographers out there, good, bad, and different, intermediate, whatever. There's so many out there that it is a very watered down, I think, area or arena. And you can have people that aren't that good that are actually shooting all the time. You can have people that are really good that aren't getting a lot of work. You can have people that are absolutely incredible and want to not charge at all, and then people get all bent out of shape because they're not charging. It doesn't affect you. A lot of photographers say it all the time. If you water down the price, if you don't charge what you owe, you're watering it down. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. The people that want your work will want your work. So don't put it on other people why you can't get work, why you can't do this. What another photographer does not affect your business. You go out there and you do it. You make it. And that's the important thing. And it's so funny. As I'm talking, I'm like listening to myself in my head and being like, you're a freaking hypocrite, because there is one photographer in this area that I just absolutely cannot stand. This person drives me nuts. And just the way that they do it. And it drives me nuts the way that they do their stuff. It has no effect on me. So I need to listen to myself right as I'm telling everybody else what these photographers do. It's funny because I even call her my nemesis. Why? She probably doesn't even have a clue about me. I just, whatever. But we all have issues, right? And so that is the truth of the matter when it comes to this podcast. And that's why I have kind of been like hovering over this tagline of, real photography talk for real photographers, because we all have issues. And the truth is social media we don't typically put our issues out there. We are always putting our best step forward, and we want to put on that good face, and we don't want to let people see the hurts or the bumps and the bruises and the warts that we all have, but we all have them. And without actually talking about them, without actually bringing them to the front, they continue to stay there. And so I think it hurts that mental health side of things when it comes to photographers and photography. And I think that's really where I like to kind of keep this photography channel, this podcast. I've mentioned it probably more so recently than at the beginning. But I'm actually really struggling with the podcast, mainly because I'm struggling getting on top of it. Here I am again, still recording the day before I get this out. And I'm not trying to be a victim or anything like that, but, I just need to get better with it. But it's just an added thing. But I want to keep doing it. That's the truth of the matter, is I really want to keep doing it. Part of me is like, hey, just do it like 30 weeks, make that like season 1. And so I'm kind of still mulling that over, and maybe that's what I end up doing, because I feel like I definitely need to take a break. Even when I've been on these trips, I haven't been able to really take a break because I'm trying to constantly get this thing done. But I think that's there for everybody. Not just me, not just this podcast. It's there for everyone. And again, even with the podcast, this is like a bougie item for me, right? This isn't something that I need to do. This isn't something that is bringing me any kind of money or any kind of return. This is just something that I'm wanting to do. And, it's like buying a car that you don't need. You buy it because you want to go do it. You don't necessarily need it. Or buying new photography gear. Everybody wants new photography gear, but are you able to create better with that gear than the gear that you currently have? Is it just something, my wife, she makes fun of me all the time. She's like, you're just buying because you're bored. And I think a lot of us do that. And so the podcast isn't because I'm bored, but it's a luxury item to me as far as photography goes. This is something that I don't necessarily need to be doing, but I want to continue doing it. It is fun, but I think more so for me, it's like it's a mental outlet for me to put out, things that are weighing me down, things that I'm thinking about, things that I'm experiencing. I want to give that information to you as other fellow photographers. I think that if we all shared a little bit more some of the experiences that we have, we can actually make ourselves better. And why not share? Sometimes it feels like photographers don't want to share anything. And then there are plenty that do, and it's always nice that when you find those that do. But I want to be one of those that want to help. And this podcast for me is one of those ways that I can actually do that. It allows me to kind of give back a little bit of what I've learned, the experiences that I've had, to be able to do that. And I want to continue to keep doing this. I just need to figure out how I can do this at a way that is not stressing me out a little bit. Because I think I finally have to come to terms and admit that this is stressing me out just a little bit. This takes extra time out of my day, out of my week, when there's other stuff that I have that I need to get doing. But until that time, I'm going to continue to keep doing this weekly. So that is it. This is did we even talk photography? Did we even talk photography? Not really. But, I still think that it is real, and it's real talk for real photographers. And so that's what I'm going to continue to do. Next week, we are in July. Can you believe that? We're already in July, the halfway point of the year. And man, it just, or are we already? No, yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter. I'm rambling here. Thank you so much for listening. Truly, always, I do appreciate it. And please feel free to leave me any comments in the comment section and let me know how it's going. If you've got any questions, I'm actually considering on the YouTube channel doing a question and answer. So if you've got questions, please feel free to leave some questions and comments in the comment section. But until the next time, keep shooting.